Hi, I'm Sharmila, and I have a son diagnosed with autism, Takshith. He's 20-year-old, and it's been a long journey. When he was diagnosed, he was about 4.5. Because prior to that, I must say that I've been looking out for something, some real person who could really diagnose what his special case was. Because when to start with my journey, I would say that Takshith was a very silent child. And he was a very normal child. I observed that there was something very typical about him. He was very observant, he was very calm, and he was not at all hyperactive. And then I did not see anything wrong with him actually. But only thing was he could not communicate, he could not speak. And he had some very typical autistic features, like he would do one particular thing regularly at the same time. So suppose if he's jumping at in one corner of the room at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so he has to do that every day. So that was very typical of him, and I really could not understand. And me being a first-time mother, so I did not really know what this could be. But when an outsider was seeing, they did not see anything wrong. I was seeing that there was something wrong with this child, because I was always comparing him with my niece, who was just as old as him, and she was just 4 days older to him. So I felt that there's a lot of difference, because the child could already speak. She could do many things with my child which my child wasn't doing. And I always felt that the child was more extrovert and my child was introvert. But when I spoke about this to my parents, they said that it's a personality difference. You know, there are children who are calm and the one who are more aggressive. But then when he was about 11 months, 12 months, and then about 1 year, and I one day found that my niece was literally speaking everything. And then my son at that age wasn't even uttering my name. I mean, he was not even responding. And he wasn't even giving eye contact when called. So this was the time when I thought that something is really wrong. So I often find that when we have parents coming down, they say that my child doesn't respond to name, he doesn't look at me, he doesn't care for me. So I must say that these are the early symptoms, early signs that one should be looking out for. So even now when there's a child in the family, I keep telling them you have to look out for something where the child is not doing regularly. So when you look at the child, you smile, at least the child responds to the mother, or he smiles back, or when you try to talk to them, they look at you. So eye contact is one thing that's very important, you have to look into. And then when you find that the child is not responding to his name, then that is also one thing. Because when in the initial days, what happened was we were asked to go to for a hearing test, just to see if the child's hearing is perfect. But never did I suspect any hearing problem, because any little sound he would respond very well, and any sound that he's scared of, like say if there is a house four blocks away from mine and there's some mixer or some pressure cooker running, then he would react very badly. So I did not respond to any, I did not think that he had anything bad with his, wrong with his hearing. But then I thought that something was there which was really very typical, and especially the routine behaviors. And from a very young age, he was very particular that I wear one particular kind of a texture. He himself would prefer wearing only the cotton. And he had some very particular dresses which he was very scared of wearing. So then I did not suspect, but I was thinking there's something really wrong about it. But then I did not find the right person whom I could talk to. But then as the child grew, I found that one typical thing was he wasn't speaking, he wasn't responding, but he was very observant, and and his time sense was very good, because he would ask for a snack at the same time, he would want to sleep at the same, go for a bath at the same time. And then I was thinking this is really something very different about this child. But then when he was around 4, my sister-in-law suggested that why is he that he's not speaking? So why don't you consult a psychiatrist? So when I went to the psychiatrist, he just conducted a small test and said, see, how do you say that the child is autistic? How much do you know about autism? I said, I really don't know. My sister-in-law, she just read somewhere about this, and then she asked me. He said, both of you just move out of the room. Me and my husband, we just left the child and moved out, and then the child was following us. He said, see, if the child is following, that doesn't mean, it means that he is not autistic, because he is aware that you are there. Then I said, but that child is always with us. Why won't he be aware? He said, no, it's not that. And then he gave him some simple games to play, some balls and all that thing to put it into he was following the instructions too. Then he said, no, he's not autistic and all. He said the parents are, like very fond of giving giving some labels to the child. And he said, it's just that he's your only child, you're over ambitious and your child is spoiled. So I could not take this. I said, no, I cannot say that my child is spoiled. Then he said, no, आजकल के बच्चे ऐसे ही हैं, आजकल के parents ऐसे ही हैं. Then we just left. But then 1 year after that, still I found that my child was having the same kind of things. And he wasn't mingling with other children. So this was another concern for me, because usually a child would want to go and play with other children, but he was actually very scared of other children. And he was very particularly he wouldn't go to any girls, because I was very worried about it. But what I observed was, at that age, all the peer group, they were wearing anklets in their feet. The children were wearing anklets, the girls were wearing anklets, and he was very scared of that sound. So the moment he sees a girl, then he would get very scared. So I was observing all these things, but I could not really connect anywhere. But then, very luckily for me, I found one article written about autism by a student from NIMH. Now it is NIPID. So going through that, I just went to NIMH. I was given an appointment and asked to go to the series of things. And then finally, my child was diagnosed with mild autistic features. Then they said the difficulty in diagnosis was because the child is mild and there are some features which are very high functioning in him. Because at that time, he was able to piece a puzzle of 20 jigs, which a normal child could not do at that age, at about 3.5 or 4. And he had some very high functioning features which was very difficult to diagnose otherwise. So he said, but these are all very typical of autism, and all the features that I spoke were all very, very true in autism. But then I would like to say that when you go to a specialist, when you go to a psychiatrist, when you go to a pediatrician also, the regular thing what happens is they will not go into details about what the parent is trying to convey. They will only just think that the parent is ambitious or the child is okay, kind of. So that kind of attitude, I would like to say that, you have to feel that you've been heard when you go to a doctor or a specialist. So I would like to tell the parents that, please, when you go, you see to it that you talk and you feel you've been heard. You convince yourself that the doctors heard you and whatever the doctor or the specialist has told is really convincing. It's not that, they told something and you're not convinced, you come back and then it's still ringing in your head. So I would like to say that, now maybe the awareness is there, because way back when my child was in, say, early 2000, it was like even the pediatricians, they said autism, no, it's just that they're aloof. But autism is just not that. There's so many things to it. Only when we got back into the therapies, and early intervention is very important, because the earlier you catch, the better it is. Because in my child's case, in this long journey, what we found out, he was very tactile defensive child. That he would not like any touch, and he was sensitive to sound, but he was a visual learner. He would learn everything by looking. And so I would say that going through all the therapies and the kind of remedies that have given me for that, how to work about with the child, I've come a long way, and he's through many things now. And he's no more as that time, and I will not say that he's out of autism, but I would say that he's improved, because he would not let anybody touch him. He had lot of difficulties wearing all kinds of textures, but now he's comfortable with all that. So early intervention has helped a lot, because I did not know that my child was having a sensitivity, or I did not know that these things can be worked out. But I must say that I was lucky enough, but it was just in time that I was told, I was given a big list of things to do. And when I started working with the child, I found a lot of improvement in him. So that helps a lot.